nice. Love your perspective and all the work you guys are doing. Being active is the way to get things done. Our next presenter is Mary Boblet. Mary, come on up. I'm going to pass this over to you while I try to, or attempt to bring up your presentation.
Please do.
Okay.
By way of introduction, I'm Mary Boblet. My husband is Darwin Boblet. He works at Big Trees Market. You might know him. And he's working today. We moved into Lilac Park, which is the focus of my discussion this morning. And just by way of introduction, on the day we got our keys, there was a fire at the top of Alder in a snowstorm because a cedar branch fell on a line, and Ebbetts Pass fire truck was, their truck was stuck at the top of Alder because it's very steep, and we couldn't get out to go back to our other house in Hathaway Pines. And this was in a snowstorm, and so right away we both looked at each other and went, oh my goodness. So one of the first things that we did was reach out to our HOA to try to get a grant started. We didn't know anything, and that kind of went unheeded. But what we realized that day is that exactly what Martin introduced us to this morning is we are darn vulnerable. We are, as individual homeowners and as communities of people who care about, we're vulnerable. And it's the slides that Martin showed, initially I was really happy to be here, and then the dismay at being so vulnerable really grabbed me when I was sitting there. And then I got happy again because all these other speakers were talking about the great things that are going on, but make no mistake, we're vulnerable. So that has led our community of homeowners here in Lilac Park to produce a fuel reduction grant application back in a year ago, and it was awarded in June of 2022. And imagine our surprise that our community got this grant. We were just ecstatic. We just threw it out there not knowing. So what I was kind of asked to do was to provide some tips on how homeowners can do this. The homeowners themselves got together and went online and wrote the application. So I'm going to provide you some tips right now. The first one is research. Research your forest conditions, which we all have learned about today. Emily provided some great information about tree competition. In Lilac Park, we didn't have the bark beetle infestation that all the other communities in Arnold seem to have, in Dorrington and elsewhere. We have a cedar forest with oaks and firs, but we had the big storm in 2021, and we have tree competition like you wouldn't believe. So like the other communities got the grants for the bark beetles, it's now time for Lilac Park to get some grants as well. So we gathered up community sentiment. Everyone said, oh, it's looking pretty messy. This is what Jaime encountered. Community members don't like messes. So we parlayed that into a grant. We also recognize that there are nearby public resources and assets. What is in Lilac Park? Did you know that the Verizon Tower is at top of Grizzly Peak and Lilac Park goes up and meets up with Grizzly Peak? We love that Verizon Tower. We all do. And there's also very important public safety communication technologies up there. So those public resources and assets have to be saved. The firefighters need to get up there. The County of Calaveras back in 1979 said, we want to fight fires at the top of Grizzly Peak and Grizzly Ridge. And so this grant is going to make that possible. Next slide. So, homeowners, you can make use of these grant application webinars and question and answer sessions. I submitted a grant for the lower part of Lilac Park this year. I sat on these sessions. There were people just like you sitting in this webinar and asking questions, and CalFire was there for every step of the way. There's some wonderful, wonderful people who recognize that we locals know where this grant money needs to go. And so they provided these wonderful modernization methods and tools. It's very exciting compared to previous years. Next. You have access to free tools to organize your grants, organize your meetings, gather up information, and communicate. There are resources online that are free. I use Google too a lot. So I'm not a spokesperson for Google, but I really like Google. And I'd be happy to chat with you afterwards and talk about the tools that we use. So none of this is costly. I haven't spent any money. And I have also, in my briefcase, 2 pieces of double-sided paper that represent the extent of the paperwork that's been generated as a result of my grant application work. And that's it. Everything else is online. So if our community can do it, any community can do it. And we recognize that the entire area of Arnold and Avery, Hathaway Pines and Murphy's needs to step up. Jaime did it. Our community did it. You guys can do it too. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Right here.
Yes, sir.
How much was your grant for, and how many lots will it address?
Okay, our grant is now underway with the beginning of reviewing about 60 lots. I think it's 57 lots and, no, it's 61 lot. It's right around there. And we received a grant in the amount of $369,000.
Wow.
Which will cover both the contractor and the forester. We live here in Lilac Park. We are doing an in-kind donation of our time and expertise to the tune of $69,000. We are also not allowed to benefit from this grant because we live there. It's not an ethical practice to do that. So we live there, we're gonna manage the project. Yes, ma'am.
Mary, how did you find which grant you went for? Because there are so many different grants, how did you know what to look for?
CalFire has done a great job of making their website easy to read.
So really, CalFire is where you went?
Absolutely.
All right, any other questions? Or Mary, you gonna be around?
Yes.
And networking afterwards?
Yes, free lunch, I'm here.
All right. Let's get right to the fun.